Welcome everybody to the Law, Your Money, and You. I'm Roberta Sapphire, an attorney in Sharon, Massachusetts.
And I'm Camille Barron, a financial coordinator and healthcare advisor, also in Sharon, Massachusetts. And today we have a very, very distinguished, handsome young man, happens to be related to the Sapphire family somehow. And he's going to share some information with us about how the COVID-19 has affected him and in the terms of his being a student at this time.
Yes, welcome Zev Philip Breyer.
Thank you.
And the last time you were on, you didn't have a beard. It must be, and you were talking about, you were in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
And you were on with Mark Daniel, and you were both talking about the effects of, even though you were in different law schools, how it was similar. So yeah. Let's pick it up from there, because you have some unique circumstances and you've been traveling. But let's start. We're going to have all kinds of questions for you. But just talk from the last time you drove. You didn't fly. You drove from New Jersey to where?
I've been driving my car up and down the East Coast since I got to Atlanta in like mid-May. So I've already done the drive from Atlanta to New Jersey and back twice now. My plan is to only do it twice though. But obviously COVID changes the way I travel and interact with people, because I'm only able to really visit the people like on that route. So like, and normally I would just fly and then I would just fly back. So obviously like I would drive through and like I stayed with friends in like Charlotte and DC and stuff. So COVID obviously changes just the way I have to like plan my vacations and stuff. But like COVID's main impact has definitely been like on school and on the summer internships, with everything being online obviously, and then it will affect school a lot again in a month.
Well, the last time you were on, you were just finishing up your first year of law school at Emory College.
Yeah.
You're from Arizona. You have a girlfriend in New Jersey, and you were going back to Emory, but you weren't sure what are they doing, because now you're going in your second year of law school.
Yeah.
Have they told you when classes start, how they're going to start?
So Emory is, the way they're doing it is the first year students are going to be split up into two groups. They get to choose which group they're in. The hybrid group, where they have like 2 classes in person and then like 2 classes online, and then like the next week they get switched. So, and then, but for second year students and third year students, all classes are online and like are mandatory online. So because I'm a second year student, like all my classes are going to be online this semester, and like that's messing with a lot of kids who already signed leases or you know, are international. Either way, I don't need to be in Atlanta anymore technically, because none of my classes are here, but you know, I've become comfortable here, so I'll probably stay in the area.
Well, what about friends? Were you in a fraternity or something?
Yeah, I was in a fraternity in undergrad. Like once you graduate, like it pretty much like kind of stops. But I feel really bad for the kids who are in undergrad right now, who like kind of lose the normal undergrad experience, especially if they're like, they were juniors or seniors last year and they had to graduate, like not really being able to see all their friends and stuff. Like no matter what, taking school online, like I haven't met anyone who like thinks it's easier to take classes online or easier to pay attention. It's nice to stay in your sweatpants some days, but for the most part, most students like would prefer taking classes in person. So it stinks for everyone, like undergrad kids and graduate school kids, but the undergrad kids also lose a lot of the social parts of school, whereas in grad school, I think it matters a lot less.
And you mentioned internships. Now, we spoke about that the last time, I think, and I think it was called off, right? The internship?
So the internships I was originally interviewing for like before Corona and like the beginning of Corona, basically all got canceled. There were a few that went on. There were a few that went online, and like they, instead of doing like a 10-week program, they did 6-week programs or whatever. But most just like either went completely online or like evaporated, which is like what happened to one of the internships that I was hoping to get. So after the internships got canceled, I was like kind of, I wasn't, you can always make something happen, but it was like kind of starting from square one again, because not only did I not get the internship I thought I had a good chance of getting, but now obviously there weren't any other internships popping up because of COVID. So I was luckily able to work with a professor. A lot of the law school professors, especially during COVID, they gave the professors like extra money to hire students on. Like we'll do research projects every year, and especially during the summer, they'll hire kids to work with them. So I'm doing that with a professor. That's like, I'd say a pretty classic thing for like a 1L student to do during COVID, because professors are definitely willing to take on extra kids that need the help. Schools want to keep their kids employed. Like no one wants any of the law students to go without an internship for the summer because of this.
What law is this teacher, professor?
He's like a law and religion professor, which is way different than what I like originally thought I was going to try to be doing in like music and entertainment law. But at the end of the day, like it's just about like making your research and writing skills as good as you can. And like, I'll try to pick up the music and entertainment law stuff on like.
Oh, what kind of law is he again?
Like a law and religion professor, like
law and religion.
Yeah, kind of like the intersection of like what churches are allowed to do, like tax breaks, like mandatory stuff like that. Like
interesting.
So are you in an apartment now?
Yeah, I'm in my apartment in Atlanta, like where I lived during school.
So you can go, actually when they Zoom, have you started classes yet?
I start August 17th, like 3 weeks from now.
Well, wouldn't we love to be fly on the walls there?
Maybe not.
It's pretty boring in the apartment, but I think hopefully stuff will start picking up again. But there's going to be a lot of people who won't be comfortable going out until there's like a full vaccine, and so no matter what, it's going to be different for a while. That's okay.
So do you have like study groups within yourself? Do you think you'll be doing that, like getting kids together to discussions and?
So when you're a 1L, like study groups are like famous and infamous at the same time. Like a lot of kids really just don't work that well in groups. Like they don't learn that well. Like hearing other people's input just kind of confuses them. I personally am not a huge group study person. I like to like sit down and get in my own world and just put my head in the books for a few hours. So like, but with COVID coming around, like the study groups is probably not really going to exist, or it'll just be like little Zoom calls like this. Like no one's gonna, I'd say there'll be a lot less interpersonal connections in general, less people being together, and definitely less like group studying or group work. But there's not too much of that in law school anyways. So I'd say like that's a bigger loss for like MBA students.
What about social interaction? Do you, even if it's online, I mean, do you stay in touch with friends, people that you met there?
I mean, yes, but I think a lot of kids go into grad school, especially law school, like that first year, and they're like, I'm not here to make friends. Like, this is my job. And so, like, I'd say there's definitely, like, everyone takes an L in terms of, like, you're going to see less people, you're going to talk to people less. You have to make an effort, like, to reach out to people that you're close with. But that's kind of always the case. You kind of have to force yourself to be social no matter what the situation. And so while COVID definitely makes it harder, I'd say once you get to law school, like the social aspect is like secondary. So it is like, that is an issue with COVID, like definitely hurts everyone's social scenes. And I think that affects people subconsciously. But I'd say consciously people aren't like, that's like the least of their worries at the moment. They're worried like, where am I going to be for class? Like, how am I supposed to study by myself? which I think are kind of
Are there any restaurants open down there, or how are they in the state? What's going on with the state?
So Georgia, and I'm pretty sure most of the country at the time, like as of now, it's like basically every restaurant is open for business, and about 30% of restaurants have a dining room area open. But for the most part, it's still like a slow, like mostly takeout and drive-through.
You know how many people they're allowed inside?
I think it's like half capacity of what it normally is, but it might be less than that depending on the state. And I don't know exactly where Georgia falls into that, but for the most part, it's just reduced capacity and not like extremely reduced. Yeah.
What does the school project, or do they, as to classes? Because why hang around there if you can just do nothing?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, they're giving the kids the options of taking classes online. Like for 1Ls, like 1Ls have
1L means first year law student, right?
Yeah.
What
First
do they
year
call
law,
the third year?
3L. It's just 1L, 2L, 3L.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
No.
So the first year law students, like they're the ones who have a choice of in-person classes. So they're the ones who, like, if they make the choice to take all their classes online, like they might be losing something from not having that in-person instruction. Just personally, it's a lot harder for me to pay attention and be fully into class when I'm in my apartment or at my house, like I was in the spring. And I think like everyone's gonna have like a choice to make. Like, do I put my health first and like stay home and like hope that I can learn just as well as the people who go in, or do I go in and like kind of take a risk? But like at the end of the day, like especially for first year students and now for second year students who only have one semester of grades like me, like you're graded on a curve, like you're compared to everyone else directly. That's how you get your score. So you want to do better than everyone else. And if you think that going in person to class is going to help you do that, then you're going to want to go in class even if it risks your health a little bit.
Any people wearing masks around when you are out? Do you see that?
Yeah, I'd say like it's definitely a lot of people who just like put them on when they're inside and then like don't even cover their nose.
Yeah.
But most people are wearing masks. Different areas of the community wear the mask more often than others, just based off like cultural differences, I'd say. But for the most part, like there's kind of a buy-in with the mask, with some people being like, this is just like annoying and not that important. There's not much you can do about people doing that though.
Yeah.
What about, like, you have a car? Do you need your car to go to different places, or can you walk to places?
So like I have my car here. I use it every day. I pretty much like driving is what I do when I get angsty in my apartment. Like I'll just like go on a drive. So like I'm very grateful to have my car. And even if I didn't have my car, I could still like, go on a walk and everything would be fine. Like where I live in Atlanta near Emory at the moment is kind of a more spaced out community. Like I don't really live in like a downtown. So like it's not as like if I was walking, everything I would walk to would be a little too far to walk. But like
Are there any other students in your apartment complex? I assume you're in a complex,
a bunch.
but they're taking your same courses that you can get together with?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing though, like, again, I'd say once you get to law school or grad school in general, you're kind of like switch focused, and like, yeah, you want like a couple close friends that like you have like with you, but like the kids in my apartment complex that like I know I have classes with them, but I don't know them that well. Like COVID is not really the greatest time for me to like try to reach out to these people. Like I didn't even try to reach out to them before COVID. You know what I mean? Like I'm not friends with them. Like if I was friends with them already, then I'd be hanging out with them. Like
what about like study groups? I remember, I mean, it was a while ago, but I still remember law school, because to me, I had worked too. When I was in Boston, but I went to law school. It was fun to see them, and then you could say, hey, what about this case? What do you think about this? And then, in a group, and I mean, maybe some of them didn't know what they were talking about, but still some of them did, and you got things, and then you talked about the moot court where you could go to court and haul a plaintiff, and have fun. Can they do any of that? I mean, that's part of it too, because it makes you think.
Yeah. So what you're really getting into is like how COVID affects like the extracurriculars that are really important to law school, mock trial, moot court, and journals. Like journals are affected the least because their work can most easily be done by themselves. But so for one LC,
journals. What is journals? I know.
A journal is a bunch of students who write about legal issues, and they publish them in these journals like twice a year. Most schools have like 3 or 4 journals, and they're like read by like some legal experts, and like it's a way for students to get published and for them to like.
We used to call that something else. Listen, when I pop off this world, I got one that I got an award for back in, and I had like about 40 copies made of being published. And when my oldest was about 2, they used them as coloring books. There might be one that's not written all over. but anyway, no, go ahead. Your turn, Camille.
Yeah, so Zev, obviously the standards of evaluation when it comes time to graduate and move on, firms are going to be looking at very different things, and everyone's in the same boat. I mean, yes, you're at a disadvantage because of COVID, but so is everyone else.
Almost everyone, because I'd say the disadvantage comes from, first off, every law school class before this one, your 1L grades were basically all important because the recruiting all happened like in a month from now, like at the beginning of your second year. But because everyone did mandatory pass-fail grades, a lot of the firms are trying to wait to recruit until January so that everyone can have 2 semesters of grades like they would have had normally. But not all schools went mandatory pass-fail. Like a vast majority of them did, like I'd say probably like 90% or whatever. But some schools already do have 2 semesters of grades. But again, like where you're kind of like getting down into it, like where COVID kind of like messes up stuff is like people are going to do different, like either better or worse than they would have done if we weren't online. At least that's the idea. Like some of us are going to be in like apartments by ourselves with no noise, and like we're going to be able to work easier. Whereas other people might have kids like that can't leave the house, like, especially like during school and stuff. And so like what's normally an equal playing field is now no longer equal. And so now law firms like also have to take into account like grades used to be kind of like an all important equal barometer because it's always been the same. But now firms have to kind of question like, do we rely more on grades because we only have 1 semester of grades and this is crazy? Or like, do we just like try to wait so that grades can be a kind of normal like they used to be? And so like, I think that's kind of a struggle for kids who are in my age who like are now like waiting to recruit, but we don't have a normal recruiting schedule and the school hasn't been able to tell us anything because it's not up to them. It's kind of up to the firms. And the firms are still reeling from COVID, obviously. So like there'll probably be less recruitment and stuff in general. Anyways, these are just like kind of compound effects of what happens when like the economy and students are both affected by a pandemic.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry. When you think about it, maybe you can come up with ways that you can still set yourself apart with some sort of an advantage, even in spite of the circumstances. Maybe it's not just grades, but other things that you may be doing or may have done.
So the classic law school recruitment is like get the best grades you can. obviously, like the better grades you have, the better. Second is to like join a journal. Usually there's like a lead journal at each school or moot court. And these are like classic check marks that like a law firm like might look towards to be like a good candidate or a bad candidate. And then the all important third category is networking. Like if you know someone at the firm, like that's obviously going to be a huge leg up. So networking has probably become even more important in light of all of this, because now not only are you just another name, but the grades that you have might not even be like a full story like they were beforehand. So maybe this will mean that firms will just be like, they'll just look at the people closer to the top, or maybe it means
What type of, I'm sorry to interrupt, because we don't have much time left, but because what type of firms go around recruiting? Because they didn't do that years ago. Do they come from all over the country? Are there specific ones? Are they big firms? Are they little firms?
So it's called on-campus interviewing. OCI is the term for it. And at big school, like at the top, like 20 schools or so in the country, like what happens is you have like a few weeks where hundreds of firms from all over the country, but especially in your immediate area, wherever that is, come in, and you can bid is kind of what it's called, like to interview with them. And then depending on, like they'll look at your grades and your resume and stuff and then decide whether to interview you. And there's like a process. There's like a first interview and then a callback. And then like you either get an offer or you don't.
Interesting.
So that's the normal process that has been around for, I don't know, at least the past few decades, like from what I'm aware. So
I would think what we used to do, you go to the courthouse, you get to know the clerks there, you see if you can be part of those moot court programs are good. You get to know the judge, and then you get to chit chat with the clerks in there, and you get you walk in the door that way.
Yeah. Well, there are still people who clerk for judges, and clerking for a judge is like a lot of firms look for people who have clerked for judges before. Like that's still a very viable path in. It's just not most people just go straight to one of the big firms if they can.
Hey, you're all, what do you think of this, Camille? When he be old enough to run for office, the political office?
Yes.
That's
exactly.
what you ought to do. It is your networking.
I gotta graduate school first, guys, but thank you.
After you get to school, yeah, why not? Huh?
But like, I don't know. I think that in general, like school is like how everyone's feeling in a month from now is going to be really interesting, because like in the first semester when COVID came and sent us all home, like at least we got mandatory pass-fail grades. So like it was kind of like, don't worry about grades. Like this is too crazy. Like just pass basically. And now it's like all the issues that people were talking about before now actually have the repercussions. Like you're going to be graded and you're going to get your grades, and your grades are going to directly affect what type of jobs you can get, especially during a recession, theoretically, where the demand will probably be more than the supply, more than usual. So like,
do they think that by next semester this will all be gone, or mostly, or you'll?
It's hard for me to think that right now, because I think even if things were to kind of drop back down to a lower level, that there could still be citywide outbreaks, even if it no longer is like a countrywide explosion. I don't think that schools will be able to lower their like amount of work they're putting in to make places safe, like to sanitize areas, because like there's a lot of liability in my mind that comes from telling people that you need them all to be in a closed room together during a pandemic. Like none of the schools are going to want to force people to do that. Like I'm a type 1 diabetic, which wouldn't affect my mental I would still choose to go in at the moment, but there'd be a lot of people who have other issues who like it's not safe at all, like just really not worth it to go in, maybe even mine. So like schools are going to have a lot to manage, like a lot of personal issues that are going to arise. Like you're dealing with people's internet now, and you're dealing with like people's home situations, and now you have to factor that into like law school where it didn't really wasn't a part of it before. So
Do you know people who have had a dropout?
from COVID?
No, yeah, but from the law school, like you brought up about people who have to do this from home.
Well, here's the thing, like this past semester, they made it so that no one would drop out because they gave us mandatory pass-fail grades. That was like, you know, kind of the point. Like no one was like, this is too much for me, I can't do school right now, because grades didn't count. Like all you had to do was take the test basically. Anyways, but it's a little different, like as you were saying, when it comes to
when it comes to if they're at home,
yeah,
they might not be able to take it.
yeah, because grades are going to affect
money.
Because grades are going to affect people this year, or because of a family money issue or whatever. I know a lot of kids have deferred from their first year. So a lot of kids who were going to start their first year are now waiting a year to start.
Oh,
But when it comes to kids who are already in school, stopping is like not what I would think would be the best option, because the whole point of law school is finish and you increase your earnings potential. And if you stop now, like most people don't have something that they can like fall back to. Like if you're a second year law student right now, you've been all in on law school now for at least a year and a half.
I have one final question. Let me do my final question, and then I leave it to Camille, and she'll wind up and get her question in, because her question will be better than mine anyway. I'm just wondering, how do you get your laundry done?
I actually do my own laundry. I know.
That was the most important question.
Okay,
I have a comment more than a question.
Yeah.
I know the Breyer family pretty well by now, and everyone in the Breyer family is extremely resourceful and innovative. And you have a very good command of what's going on the campus in general, with law schools and all the circumstances. But I think that as a member of your family, I think that your resourcefulness and innovativeness is going to come out, and it will position you at an advantage compared to some other students who are in the exact same situation. So pursue that.
Thank you. I mean,
very well said. It's true.
I think everyone, I mean, at the end of the day, you have to be you have to use what you got.
Right.
Like, so find your strengths, you know,
Exactly.
Leverage them. Like, yeah,
right.
Definitely.
Okay, Camille, I think you've got to wind up.
We're going to wind up now. Thank you so much, Zev. It's great to see you again, and you're doing all the right things.
Thanks for having me on.
Give me a beautiful smile, Zev.
Oh, nice. And to our viewers, this is our continuing series on COVID-19 and how it's affecting all aspects of life. And of course, students and education is a very important one. So please let us know if you have any other thoughts, any questions, or any ideas for future topics, because remember, this is your show, the law, your money, and you.
And you, and you, and you, and you. Thank you all.